With respect to the data security, one of the most important service from AWS is Key Management Service. The shortcut is KMS. So this is the home page. AWS Key Management System, it belongs to security, identity, compliance. And if you go to the AWS Management Console under the services, security, identity, compliance, and if you scroll bit down, Key Management Service, securely generate and manage AWS encryption keys. So let's try to understand what is the encryption and what's decryption. Let's say this is a plain text file, human readable file. Anything is a notepad what we make, right? So that file we will use a some key which should be any alphanumeric, and we will apply some mathematical logic and we will make them into an encrypted file, which is nothing but human cannot read this file. So in technically converting a plain text into the ciphertext by using a encryption algorithm. So that's called encryption. So this is the encrypted file, this is a plain text file, so you have applied something. And in the same way, decryption is we will use the key to decrypt that particular file. So in terms of the words, converting back ciphertext to plain text, this is called encryption and decryption. Now encryption, where it will be used? Encryption will be used in three different places. One is server side, which also called as a encryption at rest. So rest in the sense server side. Let's say there is a plain text file you are uploading from your laptop and you are storing into the AWS S3. So we are talking about the AWS cloud. So ultimate location to store the file is S3 or Google Drive you will store, right? So wherever you store, that end location should be encrypted. So that's called a server side encryption. Second is a client side encryption, where you will encrypt from your laptop and you will upload to the S3 bucket or Google Drive or anywhere. And the third one is encryption in transit, which is nothing but not on the source or not on the destination. It will be in transit. So HTTPS is a secured protocol. It will use as a TLS, right? TLS encryption it will use internally, and so that the destination person and the source person can send and receive securely. So these are the three types of the encryption where we can use. Now AWS KMS point of view, encryption key types. So when we say encryption, and there are two different types of encryption types: symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption. So in the symmetric, both the side is same if you look at the logo, and asymmetric point of view, one side, both the sides different. One side is different, another side is different. So same plain text file, you will be encrypting with the some key and decrypting also with the same key. So here for the encryption or decryption, you will be using a same key which will be in yellow color. With respect to asymmetric, for encryption you will use a public key, whereas converting back to plain text you will use a private key. So public and private. So these are the two different keys will be used, right? So private key is always with you, which will be used to decrypt, but encryption is with the public key. But only these guys who has a private key, those only can decrypt. I hope this will help you. Next, AWS KMS point of view. This AWS KMS key usage, where you will use. Key will be used in two different places for encryption and decryption, which is this is the word the encryption and this is a decryption, where this particular key, yellow color thingy, which will be provided by the AWS, which is a managed service. Second one is also KMS keys will be used to sign and verify. Let's say this is a message text I am sending to the one person who is in the US. So I will be signing with the private key with the signature algorithm and the digital signature, and the same person will have a public key to verify. So I will sign here and he will verify with his own key that is this sent by the GVR. So sign and verify also one of the use case for AWS Key Management Service, but mostly we will be using encryption and decryption. Now envelope encryption. So in the previous slide we have seen encryption, but this is the envelope encryption. So envelope encryption is for additional layer of security where AWS Key Management Service will use this envelope encryption when there is a use case of encryption. How it works is, this is AWS cloud and you are using a key management service, and there you created one customer managed key. I will explain about this key later in the upcoming slide. For now you are using that. Now if anybody wanted to store this particular file by using encryption, what happens is AWS will create a KMS service will create data encryption keys, which we will call as a DEK. So it will create a first is plain text data encryption key, which is plain text DEK, and other one is the encrypted DEK, right? So these two keys will be created by the KMS internally, and then this plain text data encryption key will be used to encrypt the actual plain text file which you want to store, right, and apply a encryption algorithm, and finally it will create a one encrypted file. But here it's not done. Then second step is, whatever the data encryption keys which is encrypted DEK will be used and which will be appended together, combined together, and store it at the rest. So where the actual object, encrypted object stores, there this encrypted data encryption key will be applied and stored. So this is how, and finally this plain text data encryption key will be deleted. So this is called envelope encryption, will be used by key management service in case of larger files. You can still use a normal encryption, but envelope encryption is for more security. That's why it's called envelope. So this is envelope. I hope it helps. Now we have seen an envelope encryption here. Now the decryption. Let's say the same file which is stored in S3 bucket, and I wanted to decrypt and see back the normal file. What happens is, again the key management service which will create only plain text data encryption key, only plain text data encryption key. What happens is, this plain text data encryption key will be used and which will be applied, and encryption algorithm will be applied, and that will give you back a plain text key. This is called a decryption. So while decrypting, only you need a plain text data encryption key. Why? Because encrypted DEK is already there. So here internally AWS will take care of this, how to generate the DEKs for the encryption and the decryption, right? I hope this helps. In the previous slide we have seen the symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption, envelope encryption, and decryption as well. So AWS KMS point of view, how this means, and combining all together. Now symmetric encryption, which is AES 256, means advanced encryption standard, and 256-bit algorithm will be applied when you use symmetric algorithm, and there are other as well, right? And asymmetric, which is nothing but reversed Shamir admin, which is a 1, and ECC, nothing but ecliptic curve cryptography. So this is based on the prime numbers. Now symmetric point of view, only one key will be used for the encryption and both the decryption. Remember, only one key, and all AWS services will use this symmetric encryption. So remember, all AWS service, if this KMS service is used by CloudTrail S3, any other Lambda or any other service, so it will use a symmetric, not asymmetric. And if it is a larger file which is a more than a 4 MB file, then use the envelope encryption. So envelope encryption, which will be part of symmetric. So when you say symmetric encryption, which is the same key will be used there, for additional layer of security we will be using an envelope encryption. I hope this helps. Now asymmetric encryption means you will be encrypting with the public key and decrypting with the private key. Private key is always with you privately, and asymmetric encryption will be used outside of AWS. That's the most important. So all AWS services you will be using a symmetric, and whereas outside you will use asymmetric. So now AWS KMS is one of the service, right? Key management service. So this service is offering a multiple types. So when you click on it here, right, it will open this window, and AWS managed keys, customer managed keys. So one is AWS managed key, second is customer managed key. We will call it as a CMK. So as the name suggests, AWS will manage the keys, and this is customer will manage. This is called as a CMK, right? And these are the two. And if you want AWS to manage this is a you will manage. Second, when you say customer managed, right, customer managed, but key material who will supply, right? Material, one is you want to, of course you will manage the key, but who will give the material of the key? Whether you want to give AWS or import, where you can import something like where you will upload the file into the like email attachment, how you upload, similar way, right? This is the one. And other one is a cloud HSM. Another one is a hardware security module, which is one of the offering by AWS, which is another topic, which is a very highly secured module. Hardware security module, actual full form, but it's a very highly secured, where you can generate from there. And the last one is an external key store. So if you are working in an enterprise and your company wants keys to be created from the key store, where your company has a own logic, so where you will use. So by default is AWS given KMS key, or else you can generate in your laptop and you can import as well, or else these two other use cases. I hope this helps, right? Now let's move to the next one. AWS KMS has an alias as well. So when you create a key, you have to give a one name. That's a friendly name, a unique identifier. Let's say if you go to the AWS managed key, see these are the aliases like AWS Secret Manager S3. So these are a unique. You cannot create with this same name again. That's as simple as that. And why we will use this name, which is a uniquely identification point of view. Another one is you can use the same name in the different region and different account. Yes. So this is my key name. My key name I will give you as a GVR say data key or GVR test key. I can create the test key in every region of AWS, right? So same name can be used in a different region, but not in the same place, right? Of course. So why we will use alias is, if this key is rotated, right, rotated in the sense internal logic, internal key material is changed, still it will be same alias. And it's easy to identify, user friendly access. If something happened to this key, how you will identify? You cannot remember this key ID, right? So where you will use this key alias. Last point, one key can have a multiple alias. So if you go to the AWS managed keys, these are the alias are set by AWS. This is the key ID, this alias, right? So and this alias is set by AWS, and it you cannot rename and you cannot modify, just it's a read only. And right, and in order to use aliases, multiple alias, then only possible via customer managed keys. So when you create a key, it will ask for a one alias initially, but after creating the key you can attach multiple keys. So once you attach, it will look like this. This image is taken from AWS documentation, right? Here you see project key, RSA 4096 sign, encrypt, finance, access key. So here 0987 DBCA, this key has named as a access key and as well as a DB key. Means this key is called as a two different key names. Say my application one is using this access key as a name from database, we are calling it as a DB key, but technically it's the same key. But if I want to troubleshoot something is database problem, then you can search with the database key. So that's how something like one person can have a multiple names, right? That's as simple as that. So now next slide, AWS KMS key policy rules. So here go to the AWS managed keys. These are the managed keys. This key is intended for secret manager encryption. This key is intended for S3 service encryption. This is code commit encryption. This is a backup service encryption. This is if you create any RDS database, this is a key, encryption key, SNS, Lambda, EFS, SQS, Redshift. These are I used in my system, that's why it's created, right? These are the keys used to encrypt these individual services, right? So if key is used, say for example this key you are using in one of the RDS database, right, to encrypt, right? If you are a root user also, if you have a full permissions to the RDS database but does not have access to this RDS key, it's not going to work. So that's a basic thumb rule of the KMS key is explicit permission to the key is required. I have a full permission to S3 bucket but don't have a permission to KMS key of its S3 key, then it's not going to work. That's what this point, and we will show in the demo. And second is using a KMS key, apply resource based policy. Say if you look at this S3 key or RDS, or let's take a S3 key, right? There is a key policy. So this key having a policy which is nothing but resource based policy. So since it's a resource based policy. Identity based policies can be created from IAM module, and if you look at here, these are the AWS managed policies and these are my customer managed because I created for my own purpose, right? These are the identity based, but whatever the permission you give here, this is resource based policy, as simple as that, right? And KMS keys are tied to specific region. Yes, so if you look at this here, AWS S3 is bounded to the Singapore region, means you can use only in a Singapore region only in this account or any other account, but only it won't work like this is the key, I wanted to use it in a Hyderabad region in another account or Sydney region in another account. It's not going to work. It's not going to work in this account or any account. So strictly this key you have to use per region. If your application is deployed in 5 regions, should I have to create 5 keys? Yes, you have to create the 5 keys with the same alias. That's how the most important, right? So here in this example, this S3 bucket is encrypted with AWS customer managed key. So if you look at here, this is the customer managed key. So right, and this encrypted, this dotted line, and if you take any user or admin, he has a full access to S3 bucket permissions via identity based policies, but these KMS key permissions he doesn't have any access. So if he try to upload a file, it will give you access denied exception. Why? Because no KMS access. The point is, if you give only encryption access, he can upload only, he cannot read the file, he cannot see the file. If you give only decryption permission, he can only see only, he cannot upload. So likewise, these kind of permissions can be set at AWS KMS key level. That's the most important point to take away is explicit permissions required at the key level, right? Now the next slide, AWS KMS key policies and permissions. So if you look at this particular key, AWS managed key, right? If you click on any key, let's take this RDS key, right? This particular key has a key policy which is set by AWS and you cannot read or anything, just for the read only purpose, right? Means what they are trying to do is here, this key can be used only for RDS database encryption. This is for S3 encryption. This is secret manager, and if you create any secret, you can encrypt with this key. If you create a lambda variable, you can encrypt this one. If you create elastic file system EFS, you can encrypt with this key. So each key has a own purpose. How they set the purpose? If you go to the RDS key right here, if you just scroll down, right, they are giving all the permissions of the key to only RDS endpoints. Means any RDS database you create in AWS, that will be created with some database.rds.apsoutheastasia.com. means this is a regional key, right? That's why it's a Singapore endpoint only can access this. That's a its point, right? Now go back to the slide. First one is with IAM policies, right? Now if you create a one customer managed key and go to the identity access management policy, this is IAM policy, right? In the IAM policy, these are the AWS managed policies, but I created two customer managed policies which is created for my own purpose, right? So here you can grant the permissions to the resources at identity level. That's what it's trying to say. Means not only the resource based policy, but also from identities you can attach. Means like say, let's say I have a user. So if you go to the users, I have a user 1, user 2, user 3. GBR is admin. Let's say I wanted to attach the user 1 only encryption, user 2 only decryption. So what I can do is just simply only encryption permissions. I created this policy, right? For all the star is nothing but all the resources keys I create here. That keys I can attach here, right? I can attach this to directly to the user, so that user will have only encryption permission. That's what this particular first point is saying. Second, key admins. So you can set a key admin for encryption administration, not for the encryption. Means here in my users, user 1 is encryptor, user 2 is a decryptor, but GVR supposed to be only the admin. Rest of the users should not have any administration, right? So but admins only administer only, they don't use for encryption. For encryption you need to have a user. So for encryption is like a critical operation, right? Who can log the home and who cannot unlock, right? But the key admins can change the key alias and all other things, right? This is the key user. So key user is like this guy is only encryptor, this guy is only decryptor, right? He cannot read the file, whereas he cannot upload. That's how the CMK user. Admin is you can specify one person as an admin, right? Another one is a grant. So grant is like this guy is admin, this guy is an encryptor, decryptor, but this user 3 doesn't have any permissions on KMS key. What you can do is, if this user 1 has a grant permission, he can give a grant to this user 3 for a time being. Time being means like a 10 minutes or 5 minutes for 1 hour. So this granting can do the any other identities or any other resources also. Say let's say this user 1 is using a lambda and he wanted to grant a lambda permission to lambda to use the key just for 5 minutes, he can grant. So that's the grant means. So and right, I hope this helps. Now next we talk about the grant. What is a grant? Let's say this guy is admin and this guy don't have any access, but this user 1 wanted to give user 3 as a access. So what he can do is he can delegate the access. Means he can give a temporary permissions to this user 3, saying that hey user 3, you don't have access to KMS key, don't worry, you no need to get a permanent grant, you just need for 5 minutes, right? So this guy admin can grant a permissions temporarily, right? And grant types, so you can grant to AWS service or principal, which is nothing but you can grant, means you can delegate your permissions to who? Either the humans Humans means identity access management users or services. Services are nothing but these are the services. So if you want to grant a permission to say, let's say Lambda, you can grant. That's what that means, right? So, and constraint. So if you grant a permission, you cannot just like blindly grant a permission. So you can just specify multi-factor authentication is required, or a specific IP lab. Only I wanted to grant my key access because my key is critical, something like that, right? And you can do the cross account. So if the cross account, if somebody is accessing your key, then you can give a permissions. These are the most important with respect to the grant, right? I hope this particular thing. Now, KMS key has a rotation functionality. Let's say you have created the KMS key by using this KMS console and create key, and here you choose the next option and give an alias, right? We will see in the demo. Once you create the key, what happens, and you will encrypt the file by using that key, right? So internally what happens, this AWS KMS key has a cryptographic key material. So internally it will have a key material, has a some number, some identity number. That key material, with that key material, it will create a data DE case, data encryption keys, and encrypt the actual files, right? That's what we learned in the previous slide. Now, with the key rotation, this is for an additional security. You can rotate the key after a certain period of time, or you can set an automatic. So during the rotation, what happens is the internal cryptographic material will change. Means your key, alias, everything will remain same and it will appear in this window. But whereas internally, for a added security, internal key material will be changed. If it is changed, still you can use as usual operations what you can do with the KMS key. This is only for the additional security. And when the key is rotated, key ID won't be impacted, and no impact on the data key, no impact on the alias and everything, right? That we will see in the demo as well. Now, single region and multi-region keys. So if you go to the AWS CMK, customer managed keys, and I wanted to create a key, symmetric asymmetric encryption, so I will use a symmetric and by default everything, and go to the next. Here give a alias like my -test -key, right? And go to the next. Here key administrator we have seen in the previous slide, so I want only GVR to be administration, and GVR can delete, and user I don't want to specify now. Next, review and create. So here, once you create the key, you cannot change the configuration. So when you're creating a configuration, in the advanced option, there is a single region key and multi-region key, right? So this is the option. So when you create a single region key, what happens is this is my single region key, and just I will go next, and I will create, right? Next, and just finish, right? My single region key has been created, right, with the my test key. This is alias. So if I click on that, right, so this is all about the this key. The point is here, if you look at this region, this key only I can use in Singapore region only. That's one of the first major point. So benefit of the multi-region key is, first, same key material will be used for all the regions. So here in this example, Singapore is my primary key, and all other replica keys, we will call it as a replica keys here, right? Because multi-region keys, one is the primary region, secondary is all the replica. So here let's say 3 replicas in the 3 different places, right? Europe and AP North and SA. So here, if you rotate in the primary region, automatically all the replicas will be rotated. Let's say you have one highly resilient application deployed in 4 different regions, and all 4 regions is the same code, same everything is deployed, and same keys being used. But if you rotate from one place, automatically all other regions also will be rotated, so that you can show it to your security auditors that we are rotating at all 4 places by using this multi-region key. And another good thing is the key ID. So if you create maybe somebody can ask, maybe why can't I use a single region keys 4 different, is it the same as a multi-region, right? But if you create 4 different keys in 4 different regions, same as a multi-region key, rotation is a big headache. And key material is individual for each key. You want the same key material and you want to rotate all together, then go for a multi-region key. I hope you get it what I mean. Now, default key policy IAM. So if you look at the key just now I created, right, my test key, when you click on here, let's say I remove the administrator also, right? Now this is a by default policy, right? Nobody is there, no key admin and no user, nothing. Switch to policy view. In the key policy, only one statement. What it's saying is enable IAM user permission. Means by default, when any key is created without any admin or without any users or without anything specified, all the key specific permissions will be delegated to the same account root level. So the same thing is in the slide as well. What we are doing is the same account where you create, you can delegate, means like all the KMS actions are delegated, means KMS star is delegated to root level permissions, means this IAM user 1, user 2, user 3 can be specified from here as well. So currently this user have a S3 full access. I can go to the policy and this KMS encrypt only, decrypt only, this particular policy I created at the identity level in IAM, not on the KMS console, right? Here in the KMS console I have not specified any user here, right? Here no user here. So instead of adding from here, this KMS key policy is delegating full permissions to the root, so that IAM module can use this particular KMS. So I want only KMS encrypt and generate data key to the user 1, something like that I can configure. That's what they're saying, right? This one. Now second, key policy admin, right? So and if you go here, go to the KMS key and a key administrator, add I want only the GVR to be admin, which is myself, right? So this particular key admin, when I specify and go to the switch policy view, right, there is this is the first statement we know already. There is a second statement is created, allow access for key administrator. So in order to maximize the window, this is the exact policy, right? Allow access key for key administrator and principal. So and to whom these administrative permissions are given, user / GVR, but here the full permission given to accounts / root, but whereas here account / user / GVR. So all these permissions. So what are the permissions? Administrator can create, describe, enable, list, put, update, revoke, everything, but no encryption decryption here, right? Means administrator, even though I am administrator, I cannot use that. That's what its permissions, right? And now switch back to the policy users. So policy users, say let's go to the customer managed key, right? And users, say I wanted to add a user 1, right? I just added, and go to policy view, right? This is the first statement we see. Second statement is administrator specific, right? And third one, allow use of the key to whom, user 1. What permission? Encrypt, decrypt, re-encrypt, generate data key. So data key we learned in the slides, describe key. So he can describe the key and all. So that's what these permissions to star they given. Means like all the KMS keys it's given. So this is what the permissions are given. These are the key policies, right? User grant as well. So here another policy is a grant. right? So when I am created the user, assigned a user, automatically this user one got a grant permission as well. KMS key grant, list grant, revoke grant. Means he can grant to somebody, he can list somebody's grants, he can revoke as well. So this is the key grant we just saw over here, right? Now next, KMS will be used in. So these are the very popular services where the AWS KMS service can be used in all these. These are the popular services: S3, EBS, RDS, OpenSearch. There are many EFS, secret, so many places. Like these are the popular and most used. But if you ask me the big list, how many? This is the list. I think it's more than 50, right? This is taken from AWS documentation, like Alexa for Business 2. Right, the 3 pages, like 1, 2, 3 until the AWS X-ray. It's alphabetical order, I think. So these are the services where you can use. That means how important is this AWS KMS service. So because KMS is for the encryption, decryption, and everywhere it's required, right? If you take a code guru, it's a code is a data. You want to encrypt, use that KMS key. Now the demo time. So for this particular demo, S3 bucket is encrypted with AWS KMS key, and this user has S3 full permissions and as well as KMS encrypt and generate data key permissions. So right, data key we have learned in the slides, where encryption, envelope encryption point of view, this will be used, and normal encryption, right? So this person has this permissions along with the S3. He will be able to write access. User 2 will have a S3 access, KMS decrypt access, then he can only read access. And this guy, user 3, S3 access he has, but no KMS, he will get access denied. So this we are going to see now. Right now, first we have a AWS CMK. So if you go to the AWS console, I already created a my test key, right? And key administrator is a GVR I specified, and key user is a user one I specified, right? So now what I will do is, right, so create a S3 bucket, right? So I'll go to the AWS console, S3 create bucket, right? So I will just put as a GVR test bucket 1. So I hope, and AP Southeast 1 Singapore, where my KMS key is also in the Singapore, right? So now rest everything will remain same, and just remember encryption type. I don't want to use the server side encryption, but AWS SSE and KMS I want to use, and choose the key from AWS KMS. And when I click here, what I wanted to use, AWS S3, which is AWS given key you want, or you want a customer CMK. I use this my test key, right? My test key. And now create bucket, right? All right, my bucket is created. And if you go to the bucket, right, and go to the properties, and default encryption is, this is the ARN, and if you click here, it will automatically take you to the my test key, right? Perfect. So now this dotted line part is there, and user 1, user 2, user 3. So let's go here, and user 1, user 2, user 3. GVR is the person who I am logged in here, right? Where user 1, if you go here, he has a full S3 permission, right? No other permission, only S3. Go to the user 2, full S3 permissions, but user 3, no permissions, right? Right. So go back to the slide. User 3 also S3 full permissions. So let's do one thing. User 3 also add permissions, attach policies, search for S3 full access, and next add permissions, done. So now all the 3 users have a full S3 permissions, right? Not this 1, 2, 3. So user 1 have a KMS encrypt and generate data key. So what I will do is, here I will go to my AWS console and KMS key, go to the policy view, right, and edit, right? So my first use case, user 1 should have only encrypt and generate data key. But if you go here, allow user, this user 1 encrypt, decrypt, re-encrypt and generate data key, describe key. So why I don't need a decrypt permission, right? Only write access I want. So write access means encrypt but not decrypt, right? I'll remove this decryption, and re-encrypt is also a part of a encryption. Generate data key is right, and the describe key we will remove this. Just I am keeping only user 1 only encryption permissions at over here, and this allow persistence also, grant also I will remove because this is not required because we are not testing the grant, right? Perfect. Now I will save this, right? So when you modify the default policy, you won't be able to see that editing window, right, where user adding and all, right? Now user is added, now all good. So right, so and come here, user 1, right? User 1 is my user 1. So what I will do is I have another window which is Edge browser. So I will just log in here, user 1, this is my password. So I logged into this Singapore, and he can see the S3 full access, right? Because here if you go back to the slide, this user 1 has a full access, KMS only encryption permission, right? So now I am as admin, which is GVR, right? And go to the objects here. I wanted to upload one file from my desktop. So in my desktop I have a learn with GVR, which is a one logo. I will just attach it here, right, and upload. Because I am admin, I can do anything, right? That's what I have specified in the KMS key policy level. Administrators can do anything. So now I can upload because I have a, right, perfect. Now go back to the user 2, which is in the user 1, and open a S3 bucket, and he will be able to see the image. But this bucket is encrypted with this KMS key. So now if I open this particular image, right, and you click on this open, he is not authorized to perform KMS decrypt permission on this particular, because no identity based policy allows the decrypt action, right? That's what they're saying, because user 1 is a identity, none of the policy it's allowing. But whereas we will try to see whether he can upload the file or not. So here again I wanted to upload one file as a user 1, add file. So I will try to add the file which is test.html, which is a very simple test.html, right? I can upload, right, successfully. Why? Because my KMS key, I'm back to my other console, right? Here my KMS key permission, I have a encrypt and generate data key permissions, right? So this is proved that, go back to slide, this is proved that this is able to write only, not read, right? Now switch to user 2. First we will add a user 2 only decrypt permission. How to add that? Go back to as administrator, click on edit, right? Here KMS key policy 1. So this is just copy and comma, just paste it, right? Here KMS decrypt to user 2, right, and remove it, right? Because I want the user to only to have a decrypt permission. That's what the here S3 full KMS only decryption, right? So just go back here and save the changes, right? So allow the usage of key for key user 2, just to specify the SID so that we will have a clear picture of what we are doing here, right? So that we don't be confusing at all, right? That's the perfect. Now go back to here and user 1 log off, right, and switch back to login. User 2 and the password I know, it's already copied in my right. Perfect. Now I am logged in as a user. I have a full permission of S3 because user 2 has a full permission. So if you go here, user 1, user 2 has a full S3 identity based permissions, right? Now but no KMS. KMS has only decryption. So now go here, user 2, right? Test bucket, go here. These are the two files are already there, right? So whether he will be able to upload any file, let's see, because he has only read permission only, right? Add files, and if you try to choose a test one, let's say this, make it duplicate, right? Test copy, try to upload, it got a error. And what is the error here? Access denied, right? This access denied. Why? Because he has only decryption permission, right? Only decryption permissions here, user to only decryption, right? So now cancel here, go back and try to see the image because he has a decryption, right? When you click on here, he will be able to see the image, right? Now let's see the other one as well, whether decryption permission. Open. This is the permission. So here 1, 2, one guy has a write, another guy has a read. So instead of user, you can specify other service also. That's how. So this is a one way, and other way is go back to the admin console, right? And let's try to switch to the user 3 as well, right? Where user 3 doesn't have a, right? This user 3. So we will go back here, right? Log off, right? Log off user 2 and login as a user 3, right? User 3, right? So this is about the user 3 I logged in. User 3 doesn't have any access, right? So he will go to the user 3 S3 module, right? This is S3 user 3. He opened a bucket, right? And there are two files. He don't have upload permission and as well as decrypt permission. So first let's take the decrypt permission, and when he click on this, and user 3 is saying he don't have a decryption permission, right? Now if user 3 try to upload anything from the desktop test copy, also it will complain that it's access denied exception here, it's a failed. So this is about the demo. Now another way we can test this, right? This is a one way. What we will do is I will came back to GVR console and then go edit, right? And I'll just keep the only administrator. User 1 and user 2 I will remove completely from here, okay? And right, only administrator is there and all the root policies. Perfect. Now it's showing me the key policy window where user interface. So if you do any modification here, then to the default view, default policies, it won't allow you to see this window again. You need to set back. That's remember. Now user 1, I will go back to IAM users. In the user 1 S3 full, right? Here I will add a policy, right? Policy of my customer managed policy KMS encrypt only. If you look at the policy, what I am doing is encrypt permission, generate data key permission on a resource star. I am giving it to user 1, right? Now user 1 has a KMS encrypt permission where at IAM level, right? Now in the same way I will go back to the user 2, right? Full S3 permission. I will go add a permission, right? Attach policies and customer managed decryption permission only, because user 2 I want only decryption permission at user 2. That's what I am doing here. So decryption, next, right? That's it, done. User 1, user 2. Now user 3 doesn't have any permission, right? So means we are So how we are able to attach here is because we are not dealing at the resource level. So how it is possible? Because we are giving a full root permissions and telling the IAM that, hey IAM, take care of any permissions in case of required. This is the what the KMS is by default is allowing to delegate the permission. That's what the way. So now switch back to the user window here, right, and sign out here. Now login back, right, and then paste. Right, now what I will do is I will just go to S3 user 1, right. S3 doesn't have this user doesn't have a decryption permission, right. I just click here, test HTML, try to open, no decryption permission, and go here, learn with GVR. This is the image, try to open, right, doesn't have a decryption permission. That's as expected. Now on the same bucket I have a user 1 have a upload permission. Just go here, add files and test copy, upload. Yes, he can upload, right. That's what the doing. And now switch back to user 2, right, and user 2, right, user 2, right, user 2. So I'm in a user 2 here, then S3, right. User 2 doesn't have any upload permission, so let's try to upload by the user 2, right. Add files, which I don't have. Again test copy, just let's re-upload. It's access denied exception because no upload permission, but user 2 have a decryption permission. So let's see this latest file, testcopy.html, right, and I will try to open from here. Yes, test HTML file is open, right, and also same thing is applicable for the image, which is my logo, right. This is also is available, and the third file, of course all the files, right. This is the about the all about this use case. Of course user 3 we have tested already, right. Perfect. So this is the way you can manage the KMS permissions either at, let's go back to the my admin window. KMS permissions you can maintain at KMS key level or identity level. So identity level, this is the must have a statement. Let's say I remove this key administrator. Okay, for now I don't want any admin. Let's go edit, right, key administrators, delete. Yes, perfect, it's deleted. I am fine, right. So if you go and edit default policy like this statement, what happens? Malformed policy. So it must require this delegation, IAM delegation. Another last point is cryptographic configuration, like where this key is intended for the symmetric and origin is key origin is AWS KMS, default is a symmetric because the symmetric or asymmetric we choose as a default. And what is the purpose? This is the encryption and decryption. The tags, these are the normal tags where you can create a key value pairs, right. In the AWS any resources you can add any keys tags, right. And key rotation, right, and the key rotation is like every year you cannot put any manual like I want only 90 days or something. So this is if you once you set it, just it's a save, then automatically every 1 year it will be rotated, right. So that's one. And key alias, right, we have seen in the slide. This is a my test key, and also I can create another key, my test key, my another key, just like I will give a some name. So I given a two keys, two aliases. So here if you look at here, plus one more is showing. So when I click here, it will take me here my test key, my another key. So something like that, you can use this my another key is used in a Python application and my test key in my Node.js application. This is the way you can use same key in the two different applications in Singapore region, remember that. And the most important is a key policy. Rest all are the specific, but the key rotation is add-on security aliases, right? And that's about. And the key policy is the most important. Please double check one more time. And that's it for this particular session point of view. I hope this session is helpful, and let me know if you want any cross account scenarios with examples. I'm happy to make a video, and I know this is a long video, but I hope this is helpful. Thanks for watching. Thank you. Bye bye. See you.